All right. Happy Friday, friends. Rocky Garza here. Thanks so much for joining us on the Weekly Rock here on Facebook and YouTube. And then again, those of you on Instagram, we are so glad that you are here with us as well. Today, for today's topic, I want to challenge you and encourage you. We're going to give like a 30-second, 1-minute buffer here. If you are here and you are with us and you are watching this, and you know someone that is a dude or a gentleman, however you want to affectionately refer to him, and you think that this would be something to be good and valuable for him, we would love for you to be here. We would love for you to join us. We would love for you to tag them, to text them, to tell us, hey, hop on Facebook, hop on Instagram, join this dialogue, join this conversation with us. We would absolutely love to have them here for our dialogue and our conversation today. What we're going to do is today is we're going to chat. Today's conversation, today's topic is called Dear Men Stand Up. And I want to be very clear when I say this, because if you're watching this and you're here now with this live, or you're going to watch the replay later on, make sure, don't forget, #replay. But if you watch the replay later on, I want to make sure this is really clear, okay? I am not going to talk to you, be with you, or share with you today, and that is going to be somehow a result that says, I know who I am, I have it totally figured out, I have all the answers, and I'm here to call out, to gripe and complain about dudes across the world because somehow I have all the answers. That is absolutely not why I'm here. Okay, so I want to be very clear about that. Not that necessarily I think you would, or you might think that's where I'm at or where I'm coming from. I just want to be very clear that that's not where I'm coming from. Okay, that's not why we're here. That's not who I am. It's not what we're doing. I'm here because I am with you. I am participating with you, and because of that, I want to be able to have a unique dialogue with us. Okay, so that's if you're here and you're in on that, thank you. That's what we're going to do here today. I had the opportunity to write an article for the American Reporter. And for whatever reason, just the thing that stuck out to me, the thing that I was feeling and where I was at was I just wanted to have the opportunity to have a dialogue with men. And not because I think that it's not important, not because I think that it's not valuable or pertains to women in some degree or some form of fashion, but because I think sometimes it just requires us as men to take the opportunity to have a dialogue and engage with one another, to be willing to say, hey, there's something I want to tell you. I want to engage with you. I want to chat with you. And if you are willing to stick around for 5, 10, or 15 minutes with me, I want to at least hold space for us where it's not someone coming to you and telling you that it's bad, broken, wrong, but it's saying, can we at least address what is real and what is true? And if we can do that, how do we leverage that? How do we lean into that? How do we push into that so that we can have a dialogue around it? So here's how I want to start with our time today. For those of you that are here with us live, I just want to read the article, not because I think you can't read, but because I want to bring some context to the dialogue I want to have today. I want to bring some context to the conversation that I want to have today. And then I'm going to give you some feedback from a few folks that I have that I've chatted with. And then again, just like always, I just want to have a dialogue with you. I want to have the opportunity to have a Q&A with you. If there's things you want, as always, again, here on Instagram, would love for you to throw your questions there. I know there's a Q&A button on Instagram, as well as you can just throw your things there in the comment. You can just comment them if you want, and we'll grab those and throw them over to our other feed. And those of you who are watching us on Facebook and or YouTube, again, feel free, just throw your comments there. They get automatically fed to us. We see them, and we can share those things there as well. So let's start with this. If you'll humor me for a few minutes, I just want to read it to you and let it be the context for the dialogue and the conversation we're going to have today moving forward. All right, sound good? Dear men, stand up. Nothing at all is what we expected when we planned out our goals for Q1 and Q2 of this year. Like, remember January when we set the bar high for 2020 on all fronts because we knew that this year was going to be our year? The year that we were going to crush our sales goals, make a clean sweep of our fantasy league, and finally buy that and then fill in the blank with whatever extravagant toy we planned on buying back in February because we knew it was going to be the best year we ever had. And then it hit. The unknown, unpredictable, unplanned, gasp-worthy year hit. March 2020 and the pandemic opened up what would be for many of us as men specifically an acute personal awareness like we have never experienced before. And I know this to be true because, my friends, it hit me too. There are no bars, no happy hours, no sporting events, no late night hangs with the boys. There are no sales conferences or leadership events or networking parties or whiskey tastings masked as business events. There are no workouts of the day. There are no 5:30 gym sessions to finally deadlift that 400 pounds, and no in-person brainstorming and strategy sessions with a team to remind us that even if false and temporary, that we are indeed needed and valuable. There are no monthly or possibly weekly, for the overachievers out there, date nights with our wives and partners to make up for the 14-hour days we put in at the office. There are no heroic moments that when dad comes home a little bit early and sweeps up both kids and plays in their room for 20 minutes to push the guilt down that we might have felt. There's no easy wins at the office to keep our confidence up, or authority or power to toss around on our Zoom calls, or for some of us, just simple reminders that we are actually useful and needed in our world. You see, I'm discovering that many of us men have found ourselves sitting more than normal. We are idle more than normal, and we are contemplating our lives more than normal, and even for some, having to finally face our fear and determine what it is we want to do next. We can't escape, and we can't get away, and we can't run to the low-hanging fruit that we once did to be filled for our affirmation, encouragement, and our own personal worth. We can no longer ignore the gap in our marriages, the distance from our children. We can no longer say, I am busy, or I'm just going to be gone for work, or man, you know what, right now it's just not the season. We are now postured to look at ourselves straight in the face, to spend more time looking in the mirror and less time looking out the window. To take a deep dive into all that we have been hiding for the last 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. And I believe that this time could quite possibly be one of the greatest gifts that we've ever been given. The gift to determine what we really care about most, to put a stake in the ground for what we really believe, and more than anything, to stop sitting in the chair of self-pity and confusion, and to finally stand up. To stand up with deep conviction, not arrogance, and decide what kind of man we are going to become. To stop looking for your professional abilities to mask and make up for your personal liabilities. I want to say that and read that part to you again. To stop looking for your professional abilities to mask and make up for your personal liabilities. To stop pretending that the marriage is her fault. To stop yelling at your kids because they just want you to hold them, to stop masking your pride and telling others that they just aren't blank enough for you. We are never going to build and leave the legacy we desire as long as we keep trying to conquer our lives. We're not designed to conquer. The pain in our world, in our country, in our home is caused by our failed conquest. So men, stand up. Face your fears head on and stop trying to conquer your demons, but instead let us cultivate a rich and deep soul for ourselves. And then when we are ready, take the steps required and decide to change our lives. Don't keep walking alone and pretending that if you just don't say it out loud, that somehow it just doesn't exist, because we know that's not true. Identify how you feel. Yes, feel. Assess what you need. Yes, need. And most of all, reach out for support so that you have the opportunity to join a group of men who, like you, are ready to change their life. You are not made to do this alone. And I believe it's time for us men to stand up, face fear, change our life, and kill the doubt that exists in who we are, and build a life of deep and rich conviction. And so for me, that's been the challenge. That's been the challenge of the last 100 days. That's been the power. That's been the change in my inability to at times say that I can just push through and I can grind through and I can do whatever's required for me to really dig deep and get the gusto and say, this is what it is, that's not possible. That's not doable. That's not the reality of what I think any of us have, what we really can do by ourselves. We have to be able to say, what is out there and what do I need and what is required? What am I missing? At times, what's the part that I don't know and that I don't get? Because we create this isolation, and in isolation, we can't do it, right? Yeah, my friend Chris, CT, what's going on, man? He says there's power in community. And I can tell you firsthand, and it's his to share, but you want to see a man who has decided to look at himself in the mirror and decide he's going to stand up, face fear, and change his life? CT changed his life, his whole life. Everything is different. But everything is only different because he was willing to stand up and say, I'm going to look in the mirror of who I am. And then I'm going to make a decision in a reality of what's required moving forward. So men, I don't know how else to say it, And I don't know how else to encourage us. I'm not trying to challenge you or just encourage you or say that somehow I am removed. I'm talking to myself and simultaneously attempting to talk to you. Stand up. Even if you don't know where you're going, even if you don't know the right direction, even if you don't know exactly what to do, stand up. Because I think for so many of us, we create these ways in which we mask who we are. We mask what we need. We mask what we want. We mask how we feel because we've been told our entire life to just do it and just figure it out and be by yourself and be a lone wolf and be self-made and start at the bottom and then get to the top and do what's required. And all of that is a lie. All of that is BS. Nothing great has ever happened in isolation. Nothing wonderful has ever happened because we did it by ourselves. Your marriage is not broken. Your marriage is not the problem. We are. Our inability to build and have a deep, intimate relationship with our children is not our children's problem. It's not because they're young and don't understand. It's because typically we are not in tune with who we are, and therefore we have a lack of maturity, and so we don't know how to engage. Because we are more concerned with the conflict between us and our children, even though it has nothing to do with our children. We are in conflict because we don't know how to manage ourselves. We don't know how to manage our emotion. We don't know how to manage where we are. And I know it can feel overwhelming. I know it can feel like it's not possible. I know it can feel like, well, what do you want? I'm doing my best. I have good intentions. I'm trying. And I want to challenge you today, whether there's one of you or 100 of you or how many ever it is, I want to challenge you. Today, your intentions don't matter. It doesn't matter what you intended. I'm asking you, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to be willing to pause long enough to look in the mirror and have a deep understanding of who you are? Are you willing to put in the work to try to figure out and understand who you are? And are you going to continue to attempt to do that by yourself? Or are you going to take the courageous step to say, I want to do that with someone else? I need help. I want community. I want friendship. I want the ability to put down my guard and not feel like I have to have all the answers all the time for every person, every scenario, always. What are you going to do? I reached out to a friend of mine when I was writing this and before it went live and we published it or got published. And I just said, I just want to know, like, does this resonate with you? And he is somebody that I asked specifically because he's somebody who I know is putting the work. Like, he's somebody that I know is putting an effort and he's in counseling and he's working on his marriage and who he is and in his friendships. And like, I know that's the case. And so I asked him. And so I want to share what he said with me because I want to make sure that you see that my attempt in challenging us as men is not being done simply to look for the folks who need it most and those who really got to get out there. It is a even sweep across for all of us, a challenge for all of us, a motivation for all of us. And so I just want to read you what he said. Because I hope if what I am saying and if where I am at is not resonating with you, maybe what he says will resonate with you. Maybe there's something there for you. Here's what he said. He said, here's the deal, dude. Honestly, I spend 3 hours a week in counseling. He goes, I can't go 3 days without being forced to look at my feelings, motivations, drives, desires, hopes, and dreams, values, wishes, and so on. And that being said, he said, I still avoid the work I know needs to be done. I still escape in my own ways. And yes, this time is bringing a focus many thoughts and behaviors that previously existed in the free time of travel, work, self-care, and hanging out with friends. This time has put a spotlight on what I value, what I think about myself, and what I think about others. And the result of all of that is smacking me in the face with the cold, hard truth that cannot be avoided because there is literally no escaping. When I participate in escaping behavior, it's so obvious to me and my family. He said, I see myself in the reality that you're describing. I see my coworkers, my brothers, my parents, my friends, even strangers I've encountered over the years, even if they don't see it in themselves. He says, I can see it everywhere. I see it in me. And so I know that it has to be the case for many of us. I know that has to be the case for where we are. I know even just based on the posts and the comments that were there today, for the men who responded back to our simple post on Instagram saying, yes, that's me. Thank you. I needed that. That's where I'm at. And so my challenge and encouragement is to go, I want you to know that I see you. I want you to know that I get it. I want you to know that I'm with you. I want you to know that you are not isolated or alone. And even in the midst of feeling like there is nothing there and no one there and no one to help you. And what's going to happen? It's going to require that you are willing to take the first step, admit that you need help, admit that you can't do it by yourself, and then be willing to reach out and say, what do I do? Where do I go? Where do I turn? Because I think if I could get 100 men on a live call and I were to say, how many of you feel lonely? 90 plus would raise their hand. And I said, how many of you feel isolated? I think 90 plus would raise their hand. And I said, how many of you feel like you're trying to do it by yourself and you don't know what to do? 90% would raise their hand. If I said, how many of us feel like we are trying to do everything and we have the weight of the world on our shoulders, even if the world has not been even asked us to put them on our shoulders? 90% of us would raise our hand. Because I think at times we have forgotten that it is not our job to do everything by ourselves all the time. I think we have forgotten that we have an opportunity to engage with other men around us. I think we have forgotten that we were not intended to do life by ourselves. And so without actually telling you, without actually asking us, without actually engaging and diving deep, I don't know another way to say it other than just saying it. To myself and to you both. I don't know what to say other than just saying, stand up. We have to stop flopping. We have to stop flailing. We have to stop pretending that all this part of it, the feeling, the emotion, the past, the trauma, the things that have kept us at bay, our inability to see, we just want to see results and action. We have to stop telling ourselves that that's the only narrative that exists for us as men. There's a book, and I've referenced it. Maybe it was every live call so far, so obviously it had an impact on me. But there's a book called The Boy Crisis. Read it. You don't have to agree with everything that it says, but read it. The number one phrase in there that says, I was on a call. I've been on like 5 calls this week with a group out of Chicago, some high school kids who are in a summer program that I had a chance to interact with. And I even mentioned it to them. There's a phrase in there that has stuck with me. It says, when boys hurt, they hurt us. When boys hurt, they hurt us. So let's change it just a little bit, because I know as men, we don't want to be referred to as boys because we don't like it. It doesn't make us feel good. When men hurt, they hurt us. And ultimately, when men hurt, they hurt themselves. And so I want to ask you, where are you hurting? Where in your life are you hurting? Where in your life have you been hurt? Where in your life have you been reluctant to allow yourself to go and tell yourself that you don't have to have it all together? Where in your life have you been unwilling to look in the mirror and look back at what has been reflected and to believe that it's good? Let me share this with you. I was on a call with some good friends of mine. I was a couple weeks ago, and we were talking, and I was talking to one of my friends, and I gave this metaphor and analogy came to mind, and I told him, and I was talking to myself. He just happened to be the person who was listening to what I was saying. But I think this resonates with us as men too. I think this resonates specifically with us and how we see ourselves, and I think how things have been coded, COATED, coated for us, right? The mask that has been put on for us. And so I think for a long time, here's what happened. We get this message over and over and over and over. Like we get this message consistently where it says, either you have the ability to show up and be perfect, or if you can't show up and be perfect, then you must be a pile of broken pieces in the corner. And until you can get yourself together in such a way that you can present yourself in a way that is perfect, do not show up, don't say anything, and you have no worth, no value, and you're not valuable. And so I think we live in this false sense that believes our worth and our value comes by our ability to show up and be perfect. By our ability to show up and say we have it together. By our ability to show up and say, let me show you only the most wonderful, beautiful parts about who I am. And when I can do that, then you'll see me. Then I'll be valuable. But I think we have the metaphor wrong. I think we have the analogy wrong. I think we have the picture we are painting about how we're supposed to show up wrong. I don't think we are designed to see ourselves as a pile of broken pieces in the corner, that if we can put ourselves back together in such a way that somebody else will see us good and beautiful, then we can be approached, then we can show ourselves, then we will be loved. Here's instead what I think happens. Here's instead what I think occurs for many of us, many of the time. I think we look at ourselves as a pile of broken pieces, and until we can get it together and be perfect, then we don't allow ourselves to come back and show up and be in a position where we believe we can be loved and we can be seen and we can be known. So what do? Let's go back to the article. We go to places where we are affirmed. We go to places where we are encouraged. We go to places where we know people are going to look at us and say, that guy right there, man, that guy has his shit together. That guy right there, do you know how much money he makes? Do you know what kind of car he drives? You know what kind of toy he has? You know where he goes? You know what he does? You know who he knows? You see the watch on his arm? You see, we come up with all these ways to mask who we are by showing a level of perfection that in fact is not actually who we are. So we don't actually give people the ability to see us. And then we wonder why we're frustrated, and we wonder why we're lonely, and we wonder why we're isolated, and we wonder why nobody actually sees us for us. And so I want to change. I want to paint a different picture for you. What if instead of being a pile of broken pieces on the ground, what if in fact that we had the ability to be made whole? We were worthy and we were good and we were valuable for who we were as human beings. But really the way that we see ourselves is not a pile of broken pieces. But instead, I think the way that we see ourselves at times is I think that we are, in fact, we are whole individuals who, if we would allow ourselves to stand up and face fear, that the moment we have to change our life is when we are willing to view ourselves that, in fact, maybe we are just coated with armor. Maybe we are just veiled. Maybe we have created this rough external exterior because we have tried to protect ourselves our whole life by not allowing you to see, right? We have done the opposite of vulnerability. We said, I don't want to be vulnerable. I was vulnerable before and I got hurt. I don't want to do that. I want to do this instead. Okay, what do you want to do then? Well, I want to show that I have it all together. And so I would say, what if we were able, instead of saying that we were a pile of broken pieces, what if instead we were actually a whole human being who was just covered with a veil and armor because we were trying to protect ourselves? And so by standing up and facing fear, our ability to change our life is actually the ability to slowly remove those pieces of armor so that when we expose who we really are, people have the opportunity to see that and they can love that. What if instead of trying to show a picture of who we are that is false, we actually reveal the aspects of who we really are? And upon revealing who we really are, that's something that we give people the opportunity to love. But I'm not 100% confident that any of us, even myself, have the ability to begin to remove that armor in isolation, that we can remove that armor by ourselves. And so that's my challenge for you. It's my challenge for me. That's my challenge for us. Can we? Are we willing? Are we willing to say that I am in fact whole, I am in fact worthy, I am in fact lovable, I am in fact valuable. I just have created an exterior that has kept other people from actually seeing me for who I am. And because of that, that has kept me from having the opportunity to be loved for myself because I haven't actually shown myself to anyone. I haven't actually revealed who I am. I can't answer that for you. But I can absolutely challenge you and encourage you, push you, and tell you that I believe that you are good. I believe that you are valuable. I believe that you are loved. I believe that you are a good man in the midst of pain, in the midst of trauma, in the midst of things that you don't see, know, or understand how they happened, or even you can't believe that you are the one who was the one who did them. I believe that you are a good man. And I believe it is that innate goodness in you that will give you the ability and courage to push forward and do what's required. And so I think what we're going to do today is I think we're just going to be done. I don't think we need a Q&A. I don't think we need to chat. I think if you're listening and you're watching this now, or you're going to watch it later, or you're on the replay, if you are watching now, we would love for you to share it somehow, some way for us. Tag somebody in the comments of our IGTV if you think someone needs to watch this or see this, not because you believe they're broken, but because you love them and you believe they're whole. You love them and you believe they need to see it. You love them and you want them to know that they are valuable. Dear men, including me. Stand up. Face your fear. Be willing to be honest about who you are and what that means. And then when you're ready to make the decision, take a step forward in community to change your life, do it. If it's with us, wonderful. If it's with someone else, beautiful. But if you're going to create the kind of generational break in your life that you believe you desire, it's going to require that you stand up first. So whatever we can do to support you, we want to do that. If that's joining one of our men's groups, let's do it. If that's me connecting you with somebody else who can do that for you, please do not hesitate to reach out. But if there's anything that I could ask you to do, both those of you that are watching, men and women, please share it. Please tag a friend. And please be willing for yourself to do what's required to take the first step for yourself. Nobody can take that for you. But we absolutely can be here to support you when you do it. Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Weekly Rock. If you watch the replay, make sure and hit hashtag replay so we can see that. Make sure and comment. We'd love to chat with you. Hope you guys have a great week. And don't forget, dear men, stand up, face your fear, change your life. Hope you guys have a good week.